Well, let's loop back a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of the time it takes to bounce back, because
Yeah.
it's not just the homelessness. It seems like there's a lot of things to bounce back from.
Yeah.
How did you go about that? Because, speaking to you, very positive person, very bubbly.
Yeah.
How did you get back into being this place again?
Oh, it's such a journey. Like first of all, like I became single 3 weeks before my son was born, right?
Okay.
So that was pretty big for me. And
Was that your choice or his choice?
It was my choice.
Okay.
Yeah, it was my choice. But like part of like who I am today has been like my relationship with like men and just like sort of understanding that like dating before I had a kid is going to be like completely different to dating after I have a kid. And that took me way too long to realize. But like, I've got to be nice to myself because this information isn't like freely available, But like in terms of like obviously looking after myself, I've only like really started paying attention to like what I wear, like what I do, what I say, like at the start of this year. I mean, the housing situation was really interesting because I had to like absolutely fight for housing. And I will say a lot of MPs are like absolutely useless at like the housing conversation. But my MP, it's really interesting. I met my MP whilst I was doing my political campaigning for an organization called Make Votes Matter. And me being me, it was like August 2024, like a year after I gave birth. I was involved with Make Votes Matter and I just called him up and I'm like, I'm putting on this event. Do you want to come? Like, imagine like someone just finding their MP's number and literally just giving them a call. He picked up really interestingly. And he was like, yeah, I'll come to your event. So that's where I met my MP, like bearing in mind, I was still in temporary accommodation at this point. And
can we name him?
yes. His name's Will Forster. He's the Lib Dem MP for Woking. And actually like, and then I interviewed him a couple of times for Make Votes Matter as well. And then we just kind of like had this relationship where like he knew like I was a politically involved constituent.
Yeah.
And it was just quite a nice thing to like know your MP. And essentially my old temporary accommodation, as I was telling you, the 1-bedroom flat, they were in the process of evicting me because they no longer had the money to like kind of sustain the tenancy. So they evicted everyone in the whole block.
Okay.
And I had like basically 1 month to find, a place to live. It was really, really stressful. So I went to Will and he really helped. Like it's not even, no beating around the bush. He really helped. So when a 2-bedroom flat became available, I was really lucky enough to get it. But it's that kind of thing where like I was constantly in survival mode. Like I was building my business, like building my company and building all this stuff. But like, yet on the side, like I had to fight for accommodation and I'm just like, oh, like not again. Like when do I get a break? And it just kind of makes me think like since 2020, I have moved house 15 times. Wow. Right. And I counted that. And it just like people ask me like, oh, like, do you like going on holiday? And I'm like, I hate going on holiday. Like I hate the idea of having to pack up my bags and move again. Like I don't want to do that anymore. So like I really want to stay here like as long as possible. Like people will have to like drag me out kicking and screaming out of that flat. Just because the process is just so crazy. Like it really took like so much fighting for it, Yeah.
Wow. But throughout all this trauma, you've, as you mentioned, you've had your companies, you've began to go into different endeavors. What was that process like, moving from hardship into sort of new beginnings?
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting, right? Because I say I'm a public speaker, and public speaking is a very performative thing, right? It doesn't mean that you're like lacking like realness, but you need to just be able to just like be someone else on stage, right? Be the confident version of yourself. And I don't actually think I would be any good as a public speaker if I didn't have the background in music that I do. Like growing up, I was a music scholar for voice and clarinet, and music was literally my whole life. Like it was just everything I was doing. Everyone knew me as the musical one. And I just have to think about like how I am able to like go on a stage and like do this so naturally. And I genuinely think it's because of that. I kind of realized, right, when I had given birth and I'd nearly died, I was just kind of like, why is it that in that point where I was just like in such a vulnerable state, why wasn't I able to advocate for myself, right? Young people in this country aren't taught to advocate for themselves. It's crazy. Like when something goes wrong, instead of like talking about it, we shrink and we resign in ourselves. And that's completely wrong, right? We should be like very outwardly vocal about it, but we're not. And it's not just an issue with me, it's an issue across the board with all the young people in this country. So I just kind of thought like, why don't I start speaking about it? You know, I saw so many like powerful Black women. Now, I'm not saying like I look up to this person, but Candace Owens, like she is a powerful Black woman that's not afraid to speak up, right? These are the sort of people that I wanted to like emulate what they were doing, not what she was saying, what she was doing. And so I started my political campaigning in 2024. Yeah. I was with organizations like the Green Party, even though I'm not with the Green Party anymore, Make Votes Matter, as I said. And I just kind of realized as a young person, like even in those spaces, like I didn't really have a voice. Like, you know, it was kind of a wait your turn sort of thing. And I was just so sick of hearing that I needed to wait my turn. Oh, be patient, your time will come. That's not a very good way of thinking in politics, right? Because everybody who's anyone in politics has just said what the hell they think when they think it. You know, they haven't waited. And so I just started, like, I just had something to say and I just said it. And it's really as simple as that. People ask me how I'm a public speaker. Like, it's nothing really that deep. Like, I had something to say and I said it. And I realized actually there aren't a lot of young public speakers, which is strange, right? Public speaking isn't something that you have to like study for years and years like a doctor. Like, why is it that there weren't a lot of public speakers? I would tell people like, I'm a public speaker. Wow, that's so interesting. You're so young. How can you be a public speaker? Like, why can't I be a public speaker if I'm young? And so I thought I wanted this to be my legacy, right? And so I created Amelie Abass Public Speaking Limited. I founded it last June, I believe, June of 2025. Yeah. And my organization is basically it's my legacy. It basically is everything about me, right? So I've got the podcast appearances, I've got the workshops with the kids at schools. I've got the public speaking coaching. I interview really, really cool politicians like Zach Polanski, Zara Sultana, and there's a couple of other things as well. But it is something that no matter what I do in my life, I'll always have, you know?